Oh, what's up? No one's gonna watch. Special edition. No one even
Yeah.
knew we're going live. It'll be on the
Nobody,
YouTube.
nobody's
People
gonna
do
watch
watch.
it all.
No, they do. I get some DMs actually from people who really enjoy what we're doing
I got
and
a
our
notification that you're
takes.
live.
Well, yeah,
So,
because the YouTube. All right,
so
cool,
I know.
sick. It's good. All right, well, I got the two boys on here for. They went to TFX. Tristan coached. We'll have them tell you how many people, and then we have our coach Noah, who was on a intermediate team of 3. Before Tristan goes, Noah, tell the backstory of doing TFX, what you got last year, how you started working with Marissa, like tell that whole and what you wanted to achieve, because I think that's kind of neat. Even though you did intermediate team, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not like pro or anything. Like, let's get that straight.
You're still a competitor. It's fine.
Yeah, still competitive or in the intermediate space, but
yeah.
Last year I did the online qualifier, and I placed. It was somewhere around like 70th or 80th individual. We didn't do team. And then this year worked with Marissa, and then qualified for team and individual, but we decided to go team. Yeah. We decided to.
No, that's growth. Actually, we should celebrate that more because I think there's a lot of people out there, athletes, who like get 70th in a qualifier, no matter whether it's like, scaled intermediate, RX, elite, and then you're trying to break through and qualify for something in any of those divisions. So I think that's a huge accomplishment that you did, put your head down, work, and achieve getting to qualify to an in-person event as an individual. So yeah, let's celebrate that. Okay. Big applause. Let's go.
Thank you.
All right.
So, but yeah, it was a huge leap in the individual category, but we fared way better on the team side. So we decided to go team to actually go for a podium spot.
Nice. And that happened. You guys got
and
second.
It happened. We got second.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Little touch and go there for a while though, huh?
It started off kind of rocky with the first 2 or 3 events. And then finally we started getting into more team CrossFit style events that I would say, and that's where we kind of shined and started to pull away. So it was good.
So Tristan, who do you have?
I had Jacob there in the pro men, and then I had a team of ladies in the RX team of 3, a gentleman in intermediate indies, and then Ascend had another handful of people. So Coach Mahmood and I, we were just running around back and forth helping people out. So we had guys in RX, we had guys in intermediate, we had teams, we had ladies in intermediate. We were busy.
What was one of the highlights of the weekend? Didn't have to be like your highlight, but just generally. It could be one of your highlights.
I honestly think my highlight, and this is a very nerdy coaching highlight, because you can't do this at every competition, but you're both probably going to get this when I finish it. There's no better feeling than being able to communicate with your athlete on the floor and being a difference maker.
Nice. Yeah.
Like it's the closest thing in CrossFit you can get to being like an offensive coordinator or something.
Yeah.
But it's if in that rare scenario where you're at a competition where you can be close enough, they can see you, they can maybe hear you, or you can communicate in some way, and then they actually do what you say.
Yeah.
Because that's the other part of it, right? Like you can tell them what to do, and a lot of time people are like, nah.
Or in the moment have like the ability to do what you're saying.
Right. So like there was a couple times like that throughout the weekend for me. And that I love that. Nothing gets me more fired up than when I can do that at a competition in person.
Yeah, you do feel like it's actual coaching. Like if you've coached team sports, it's much easier to do that. You get the breaks in the play. They can come, you can call timeouts, and you get more of a coaching feeling.
Right.
Whereas most of the time, because you can't get close enough or they don't put you in positions, I would like it for like true designated coaches to be on their end lane, like in their legit end lane by the finish mat.
Yeah.
You know, I know like even if you had to take a knee or something, I'd be out there.
I'll sit on a chair. So like whatever you want me to do to be out of the way. We were joking too. Cause I mean, you've been a TFX, Todd, like it gets loud. Like the DJs are loud. The announcers are loud. And I was just joking with my athletes, and I said, I wonder if it would be against the rules if I gave you guys an earpiece. And then, because then I
I'm
don't
sure
even
it
have
would
to
be.
yell. I don't even
Yeah.
have to yell at you. Like, I'm just going to be in your ear, nice and calm. Like, hey, you're doing
great.
good. Like, do your thing. One of my athletes, he said, I get the idea, but I'm going to be honest. I would turn around and look at you and take it out.
Yeah.
And just put it on the floor. I was like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
But anything stand out, anything cool you watched, observed, you did?
Man, I think it was really cool, like you said, like being able to qualify for the event. This is the first time I've ever really like qualified for an event like TFX. And then it was the second day where we actually got to step out onto the floor and be in our lane and actually watch the people that we're trying to beat and actually race and compete. That was it kind of brought me back to like when I was like in, like high school and you're competing against other people and you're trying to like, die for points. And so that was really, really special for me. And it fired me up to be like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. So yeah, it was super cool. And to do it in the final too, where we knew who we needed to stay ahead of. And also kind of race the team that was in first and kind of give them a run for their money, even though they were way ahead of us. There was no way to catch them. But I didn't want to end on that. I wanted to end on us beating them, which happened. So it was super fun.
Nice. Yeah, that's a little. If you've played sports, field sports, I feel like I guess indoor team court sports also, but like field sports, that feeling like when you've been on the bench. And I played lacrosse, so there's a lot of turnover, like hockey. But like when you go from the bench to getting out on the field, and there's like, I don't know how to explain it other than you feel like you've stepped into this like massive world because you're so close to everybody, and then you get out on the floor and you get that like rushing sensation rather quickly, and then it goes away and you're playing the game. But like I think athletes do feel that feeling for a fraction of a second in CrossFit, because when I did regionals, I kind of felt the same way. You like when you run out to your lane and then it's like boom, it's like all in front of you.
Yeah,
it's it's for me, it feels the same as those two things, if you can relate it. And I think a lot of people like that feeling of competing and getting out there and like in that singular moment, that split second right before any of the time is called or anything. But no, that's cool.
I feel like it's such a good feeling for athletes too, just with the way the sport of CrossFit is. A lot of times athletes are competing against the workout, but when you're in the appropriate division for yourself or whatever, you're at the prerequisite level of fitness where you're not competing to complete the workout or survive the workout. You're competing to beat people in the workout. And that is a whole other step to it that is one of the most enjoyable parts, I think.
Yeah, I know people don't like qualifiers, but I think that's the beauty of the qualifier, and especially like getting put where you get put in your qualifier. Now the way they do it on like what's the competition corner, they'll do the cut lines and they'll put everybody on the one leaderboard. I really like that, and it just filters you through, and that as long as no one's cheating, you're going to get to the event, and you might end up exactly where you started on the leaderboard, but at least you, like Tristan's saying, you'll have the opportunity to race, and you don't feel so outside of your fitness. Because the ones where it's like sign up, show up, and I've done some of those in like team situations where you're just getting beat on because there are people who have like no business. It's like they should be at the games, and you're just like, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
But cool. TFX, how many spectators were there, would you guys say? Like not competitors or from other divisions?
Probably.
By the looks on your faces, not many.
No, it wasn't.
It was jam packed. Like there wasn't. There's always empty seats, but I'm just trying to get a rough estimate because it would change between divisions. Like whenever divisions would get out there, so
that's probably I don't know, in total probably at least over 1,000.
That's pretty
maybe
good.
2.
Were they charging for tickets? Do you guys know?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, they would do weekend passes or day passes.
Yeah, man, they charge for coaches passes. Come on.
Yeah, did they really?
Yes, they did.
Like I kind of like
70 something bucks.
Yes.
Really? Something like that. Yeah.
No, actually, I mean, yeah, that sucks. as a coach, but I like that. They should do that.
I mean, I get it. I will say, like,
Make a
even
standard.
though,
I'm for it. All right. Everyone's going to be mad now. Why?
thanks, Todd.
I'm for it.
Even though the crowd probably maybe wasn't as big as other events, they do a good job, especially when you're inside that arena. Like, actually,
Yeah, because it's got a
under
metal roof, right?
yeah,
So the sound just bounces.
DJs bumping, MCs are loud, and then the crowd gets into it, and you don't have to have a ton of people in there for it to be like
Wow.
you have to yell to the
hold a
person next to you.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a cool environment.
Cool. Yeah, well, I need you guys on to talk about your experience and then just like kind of the competing in CrossFit. I think right now, you know, we're going into the season. What's really cool about this one was the top 3 finishers in the pro division get an invite to TFX semifinal as long as they finish in the top 1% in the open. Is that correct?
To my understanding, yes.
Which I believe most of those athletes will. I know Jacob will because he's been to semifinals, so he'll be in the top 1%.
Casey and Matt will be fine.
And so they'll move in and they'll get those spots, which is really neat. But like as we're going forward and in tandem of you guys being at TFX, I would say up next to, we'll see how it goes in May, the New York HYROX. I would say one of the largest HYROX events happened in Vegas at the same weekend. And we had a lot of CrossFitters there, obviously in the space. So you guys, I'm sure, saw competing in that. You know, Vegas is hard to compete with. It's inside an expo hall. It's Vegas.
Yeah.
You're running a race.
Right.
It's a one-day thing. Like if you're a competitor, you come in every 15 minutes, they release new groups. They do a good job of having the pros go first, and then they like bleed it through into the appropriate divisions. So even if there are spectators, the athletes competing are also going to be spectators. Cause like if I get my race on Saturday afternoon, you know, and I know that the pros are going Friday night, I'm probably going to show up and watch the pros race, you know, because you know, flights and stuff, everything else. So like pretty unique thing. And I know it's big in the space right now of like functional exercisers who are good runners are going to get into CrossFit, and or people who are bad runners still might want to do it. Is there being at one of these events this weekend for TFX that's going to qualify for semifinals and being coaches in the space for a good amount of time at other events, is CrossFit hard to watch, or did you like have fun all 3 days, or was there some fatigue over the course of the weekend?
Go ahead, Noah.
Nah, so like whenever I wasn't competing, and we weren't trying to like manage Cole or anything like that, like I would try and watch the pros every event, every time I could, every day. I feel like there wasn't really an event, maybe the lunge run, the lunge run, I didn't really watch. But the other events were super fun to watch. And I never felt like I never got stale or got boring, or there was an event that I was just like, yeah, I don't know, this just isn't doing it for me. But that's just me. I liked all the events that were programmed at this event.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the events were entertaining to watch. Like programming we could go into, because whatever, I have thoughts always. But I think TFX did at least a decent job too with the majority of the events, especially ones in the arena that they had where they were moving the chess piece. So you could tell a story. That was a big thing that I took away from Wadapalooza. They didn't have a lot of that, or it was very hard to see who was moving the chess piece because it was like the volunteers, not the athletes, and it was all the way down the floor. So I thought they did a really good job of telling the story. You could kind of figure out who was in the lead on all those events, things like that. And I mean, I'm obviously biased because I do like watching people exercise fast, just like because you know, I'll just pull up a chair and see what happens and see, you know, what happens to somebody in a workout. But it was entertaining. I think they did a good job with the setup and the flow and telling the story. And I mean, all the divisions were pretty entertaining to watch. I watched or coached people through almost every division. Yeah, and I thought it was entertaining. But again, I know I'm incredibly biased. I would rather watch people do that than people run for 40 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I turned on the live HYROX. I watched a little bit of it. I like it. I mean, I like fitness obviously in general, but I don't watch a whole lot of sports. I like hockey, but like I don't watch a lot of football or anything. seems boring to me. So that's why I asked, because like I'm sure people would say watching people exercise is really boring as well. You mentioned Tristan Wadapalooza having a little bit different. If you were to just looking from a view of like, okay, how do you make this more watchable? How is it better to tell a story or easier to coach from? Is there a difference between those two events where they do a good job, where they do a bad job? Because you're coming off the heels of that last weekend as well.
Yeah, I just think there were events on the team side in particular at Wadapalooza. The indie side, I thought they had a pretty good flow on a lot of their workouts, but there were a couple of the team events that were in the tier arena that it was just really hard because it was pretty big. Like it was a good length floor. And it was just hard to see who was in the lead, especially with that rope climb, box jump, power clean workout. They didn't move the bars down the floor, which they had all the real estate you could have wanted. They had like the volunteers moving the chest piece, but they only moved the chest piece like this every time. So it was just
or something.
Yeah. So I just think they could have made that a little, because it was a very confusing event, you know, like from the outside looking in, if you don't know what's going on. So I think for the watchability part for CrossFit events, especially team events, you've got to just keep doing due diligence. And it wasn't like it was the end of the world, but you just keep doing due diligence on how are we telling this story? Are they going to move their bar? Are they going to move their plate or a chest piece? Like that kind of thing, so that you can, even if you don't really know what's going on with the event, you can have an idea of like, well, these guys are in the front. This red mat down here must be the end. They're probably winning, right? I should watch them. Why are they winning? What are they doing different? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I do think that's huge. I think they did a really good job with that in regionals from like 2014 to 2016. 18, it got a little away from them, I feel like. But I think most of the time they did a very good job of trying to tell a story, especially in teams, because they would always move the worm.
Right.
But I do think and I don't know how much safety is involved, but I think moving the barbell or moving the dumbbell forward or whatever it is and trying to set up those workouts that way is always a good thing. Like they had the one workout, I think it was 2016 with the row, handstand push-up, chest to bar at regionals. There's no way to know like who's moving forward. And you could have someone move the chest piece, but I like it when you have the athlete go down the lane, do the thing, come back themselves. Because at a glance, like you see, oh, that person's running down. So they're moving that piece. And it kind of draws the spectator's eyes back to where the race actually is, even with the chest piece. Because like, no, you sent me the video of your guys' final event and they made the athletes move the chest piece on the teams. And like, even though it's like, oh, well, they're running back and forth, that's kind of annoying. But it draws your attention to what's actually happening. Like they go do some work, they move the chest piece, they go do some work, they move the chest piece, and you're looking back and forth. So it's an easy way to get the viewer engaged as well.
And I feel like TFX, I feel like TFX did a good job. Like they moved the chest piece forward like 5 feet.
Yes.
So it was noticeably ahead of the other ones. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. That separation is important. How much do you think these people think about these things? Because like I've done a lot of research into HYROX. We became a HYROX training facility. My wife really likes it, obviously, because she's super enduring. Tristan, your wife might like it too. And
yeah, I don't know about that.
And it's interesting because like there are a lot of people who have asked to come do the class and everything else. And like I think that's great. Anything to get people exercising and trying to compete and move, you know, but then you look at the base of CrossFitters right now doing it and just crushing most of these HYROX people. You could just say, hey, like you got to keep CrossFit as your base and add some running in. You can have a specialty class, but it should incorporate a lot of the characteristics of CrossFit, which thankfully I'm the one programming the HYROX classes. So I do make people back squat. Spoiler alert for those who are doing our HYROX class. But it's interesting to know like that experience, you know, and that's their biggest thing right now is like they're trying to figure out how they give athletes a big experience that do HYROX. So they almost, I was listening to this podcast with some of the co-founders and like their thought is like, you go to a BMW dealer and you're going to buy a BMW because you're at the dealer and you already know what you want. It's already an investment. It's a lot of money. And then the culture, the community, the feeling, all of those things you get from a BMW because you're already invested in it is what they want to cultivate within HYROX. So a lot of fanfare. And they do a good job, I think, from check-in to your race to everything else. I do think that's lacking in CrossFit, but what could have they done, or what do they do that other than like telling the story of the race? What could they do for athletes and spectators? Because I even like that they're charging the $70 to coaches for coaching. Do you get a better coach's wristband or a lanyard that says TFX coach, like they did for like Syndicate Crown, that like you as a coach can take home with you, to signify that moment in your life where you coach these athletes, or you competed? Like, what is getting invested into that for that experience, not only for the spectator, but the coaches and the athletes involved, to give you that, like you're driving a BMW to come and compete at these events? Do you think we could improve on that? Did they do some of that? What did they do? Tristan, how was Wadapalooza?
I was going to ask Noah, I didn't really see the athlete check-in process for TFX. What was that like?
It was, to me, it was like pretty straightforward. Like, you lined up with your division, whether it be team or individual, and then you go up there to athlete check-in, you get your wristbands, you get your free t-shirt or your athlete t-shirt. And then you get your bib for for the first event for the run. And then that was pretty much it. I did like, because some of the vendors did do a lot for the athletes over the weekend. Like, I know LRX was there, and they actually did like an exclusive shop for the athletes, which I thought was really cool. They was in the check-in area. It was only for athletes to snag stuff before it like went out.
I love that.
Before it sold out. So that was super cool. I really liked how Ryan did that. And then of course, like Zoa, having a bunch of drinks out.
That's actually really smart. CJ mentioned, we were talking about this, and like, props to LRX for doing that.
Yeah.
And if you're a company who's going to partner with one of these events, like, I think sometimes they think that the event is going to do everything for them, but just having that idea of like, okay, like check-ins here, your booth or small booth or whatever it is for the athletes at like a 10% discount, and you only have it set up a check-in and it's only for the athletes, and then you take it down.
Yeah.
Like CJ and I were talking, and she's like, if they did that at semifinals this last year at Northern Spirit, let's say you checked in, they walk you through a Northern Spirit pop-up store. She was like, oh, I would have totally bought stuff. And I feel like that's a huge missed opportunity for some of these like big name sponsors like LRX, for example, with TFX, but they did that. And I think more of these companies who are sponsoring or trying to make money off of the sport could put themselves and position themselves to make extra upsell dollars in that way. So that's a really good idea. And the LRX gear is great. Like, I know it's just like t-shirts and hoodies, but he gets some unique items that I think are really nice. Like, Noah, I texted you about the shirt, TFX shirt that I wanted to get because I just like the logo on it.
Yeah. It's a good shirt. I'm wearing it right now. Awesome.
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, the coach's band got you access to like the athlete area and the warm-up area and all that kind of normal stuff. I do think credentials would be cool because like I would keep those probably in a box somewhere. But I mean, a wristband you just cut off and throw away, right?
Unless you're a weirdo like me and you keep them.
You keep them all.
Yeah.
I keep them all.
I kept a couple. I think I have my wristbands from like the first year coaching at semis and stuff, but
I don't want to ever forget,
Yeah.
Every wristband is important to me.
But I think kind of to the point, anything they can keep doing to elevate the athlete experience, because that's at the end of the day, even if we compare TFX or these other events to competing versus a semifinal from CrossFit, what CrossFit did was two things with those events. It was one, you had made it to a certain level of competitive excellence and you were competing against the best people in your half of the continent, if you're in the North America, right? And then the other thing was athlete experience. You got a picture, you got gear, you got swag, you got a number, your name was on the jersey, right? It's just athlete experience stuff. So I think if the TFXs and syndicates and Metcon rushes, and if they just keep elevating that, the fittest of the coast, if they just keep elevating that athlete experience, and Wadapalooza has a pretty big check-in process, and like they've got that kind of on lock.
Nice.
I think if these other comps just keep doing that, it'll keep drawing athletes and give them more incentive and things like that.
Yeah, I just brought it up because like I said, the HYROX happened, and I know a lot of people were posting videos of their check-in, and they actively trying to make these check-in processes really big experience, because the only other experience you have is doing the race for on average 90 minutes for most people.
Right.
The rest is like, yes, like Noah explained, get out on the workout floor and everything else. But
Mhm.
then you get that every time you do an event. But yeah, I do think that most of these comps, it's lacking. It's an afterthought at check-in, and more of like, oh, we just got to make sure these people are here. We got to get them in and out. There's so many people at check-in versus like taking a breath and be like, this is an experience for people. People have flown in, they've paid for Airbnbs or hotels for 3 days, which is not cheap. Like they're spending $1,500 to $2,000 to just come out here.
Yep.
And on top of everything else, and then their time and their energy. Same thing with the coaches. There's coaches spending a lot of money to come and support, athletes. Like, I mean, Tristan, if you don't mind, how much did it cost you to go out to Wadapalooza? You don't have to tell us if you feel uncomfortable.
I shared an Airbnb in Hattie with them, which helped cut down the cost, but it was over $1,000 at least.
Yeah. And like for coaching, like let's say you have an athlete, the average remote coaching cost of like $350 a month, that's a third of what you get throughout the year from one athlete. So if you're planning overhead and everything else and you're trying to get to comps and support these athletes, it becomes a pretty big investment, so
yeah, food, Uber, gas, like coffee.
Yeah. I mean, you buy coffee anyways. You can't count that. But
I do.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just joking. I look at it and like, okay, so these events could put on, and take on that understanding and just step back and go, okay, how do we make this really exciting for the people coming in? No, was there I like that people do this and we do this, and Tristan knows. He's seen me walking around with the big bazooka lens camera, snapping photos for our people at comps and stuff. Everybody makes fun of me, but like we try to do a really good job of getting content and photos for our athletes. And like at the end of a comp, we put all the photos and videos we get into a Apple iCloud folder, and everybody can access them. Whether they use them or not, that's like up to them. But there's a ton, like even from the Masters games, we have about like 120, 150 like quality shots.
Yeah.
Was there a media package they offered out to you guys to upsell? There was?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Right in the, I believe probably a few weeks leading up to it. I mean, maybe actually a couple months. They sent out an email to everyone that qualified for you to have a chance to purchase a media package, where I believe how they did, we didn't purchase it.
How much was it? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I just know that
too expensive for you not to buy one.
I just know the other two guys didn't want to pay for it. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to pay for it myself.
Yeah.
And then I think what they did and how they organized it was you would just have like a pass or a slip or whatever for that said media on it, I think. And then as you were going up to your event after your corral, a media person would come by and see who had that package slip. And then you'd give it to them, and then they would know what lane you're in and what heat you're in, and they would make sure and get plenty of photos for you for that event.
That's a good system.
Yeah. That seems squared away.
Yeah, and they had a ton of media, like a ton of photographers there. Like everyone.
Well, yeah, because Marissa sent it to me and was like, you should reach out, because they were looking for photographers, videographers for that event.
Yeah.
And like I mean, I think I'm pretty good, but I'd have to have somebody who in the space judge me on that. But I almost did it because I was like, that'd be really fun. I know Noah's competing, and I like it. I like it as a hobby. But then I was worried, like I was like, it's going to be like shooting weddings. Like you just got to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So I decided not to. But yeah, no, that's cool. I think that becomes common practice for it. I wonder how fast it turn. I would like to know how fast the turnaround for like HYROX is, because it seems like people post those photos and stuff pretty quick from HYROX.
And I wonder if they do, if it's a media package you have to get as well.
From HYROX, it is $35.
Okay, because I've done a HYROX and I don't remember anything about media from doing it. So
when did you do it?
I did doubles.
Like what year?
In Houston in 2023.
Oh, so fairly new. I mean, most of the stuff that I know about now that I've been listening to and like getting invested in is like new changes that because they want to grow it. So
yeah, I did. And the Houston HYROX always falls in the middle of the open. So me and the guy who did it, we did the HYROX, and then Monday did the shuttle run burpee thruster workout, and
primed and ready to go.
my ankles were just furious. Like, it was not good. But
Nice. So if people were going to do like more competitive fitness, because I feel, okay, here's the other problem I've been looking at recently is I've been looking at some of these qualifiers, leaderboards, and I feel like the participation of these leaderboards is low, like even just the qualifier ones. One, the first question was like, why do you guys think that is? And then two, are we just like not, because like you look at Turkey Challenge, didn't pay out. And I think, that's problematic. And there's also like Can West that didn't pay out those years before. And it's just mismanagement of business. So we're like talking about TFX and Wadapalooza and then HYROX, which I think, you guys are already explaining that one, the horse arena that they use for TFX is like I looked it up. It's like $500 for the weekend to rent. So their overhead for the facilities is very low, which is great. Like keep doing it there. Like don't change where you guys do TFX. You're making a killing. So it's kind of that thing of like, are these companies just not managing their money well enough or understanding what they're doing? And then is people not signing up for these qualifiers like hurting a lot? Like as coaches, how do we push people to do it? Because I just had somebody do the HYROX Vegas and they're a CrossFitter and they go, I liked it. It was pretty busy because it's a lot going on. A lot of sensory overload, but the division they were in, they're a master's athlete, and they're like, you're not really competing against anyone. Like you are, because there's the scores and the times, but they send people out, groups out every 15 minutes. So when you're out there, there's other people out there who are already racing. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't really remember where anyone's at. You don't get the feeling that Noah got in CrossFit and racing on the floor. So like, how do we get more people invested in it or give feedback to some of these organizations? Because I think that's something I'm going to do over the next year is like, if given the opportunity, either DMing or emailing or collecting information from you guys and just having conversations with people. Because like Jason, the owner of Monster Games, friends with, and I give him feedback often about certain things. So like just trying to do that more, because I think with small enough space that if you just come with constructive criticism, feedback, solutions, we can make a difference. So if you guys have feedback on that, of like, why do you think people aren't signing up? Are there not enough people signing up? What do you think happened to something like Turkey Challenge? Is TFX going to pay out their people? Like,
I think TFX will pay out. They have a pretty good track record.
Yeah.
Well, with the $500 fee to rent that horse arena, I might rent it just for fun.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Jeremy Thiel, like they run a pretty tight ship with TFX. Like he's been doing it a long time.
That would suck for Jacob because he was one of the athletes who didn't get paid out from Turkey Challenge.
Yep. And Madison's team, which sucked because it was, we both felt like it had a lot of potential in the coming years. But can't say that now. I think with the qualifiers, when you take into account the changes to the CrossFit season, WFP, HYROX growing, I just think there's a lot all at once. And a lot of these things overlap. Like I'm sure you guys are in the same boat I am. Like off the plane from Miami to the gym for qualifiers, back from TFX, next day in the gym videoing qualifiers.
Yeah.
We'll go to Fittest of the Coast and then people will be doing more. Like it's just never ending from the coach's perspective. But I think for athletes, there's not that central thing as much as it used to be, especially if you were a bubble athlete for semifinals, or that was your goal. And now the quarterfinals or what it will become is moved later. I just think people are, the dates on the calendar made it to where more people did this qualifier because it made sense to go to that comp.
Like Wadapalooza back in the day.
Right. Now that the main date that everybody kind of in some way gravitated towards, which was the CrossFit Open season, is just kind of 3 sheets to the wind. I think that's going to send all the athletes to do the same thing. They're just going to pick stuff. Like my wife is kind of a good example of this. we knee-jerk did NCC, and she made it, which is awesome, like huge for her.
Nice. Did she make elite or RX?
She made elite.
Sick. What number was she?
Awesome.
31st.
Woo!
Stressing. Anyways. But then for her, like her other date on the calendar is Crash.
Mhm.
Like she wants to qualify and go to Crash because she likes what JR programs. She thinks it'd be really cool. She saw Jacob go. She knows I was right. So like that 2 years ago, I don't know how many athletes would have that as their date on the calendar. Right. But I think as things are becoming more decentralized, we're just seeing that a lot more. And then you have these other things like, well, maybe I'll do Monster Games quals and then do Monster Games. But then in August, maybe I want to go do HYROX wherever. Right. And so they're like, I just think things are spreading out a lot more. So it's leading to less registration per qualifier. Like in 2019, when I did the TFX qualifier.
Yeah, that's crazy because like when you use that example of HYROX, like all that money goes into HYROX, no matter the event, wherever. Whereas, and I'm not saying we should do this, but like I think that's what people don't realize is like the centralized power of having one thing. If TFX, Monster Games, Wadapalooza, all that money went to one place, then they had a business, they had their flow chart of who's in charge of what, and people actually manage the money correctly.
They just have a lot more capital.
Yeah, and you could do a lot more. But because it's not like that, like that's where my concerns come from. Because like the base, let's just say ticket sales of the qualifiers is their first revenue stream, and then their second revenue stream, primary revenue streams, are going to be registration, which I was going to get to of like in-person registration should that go up. But yeah, I mean, you pose a good point of like there's so many things, and so JR is a good example of Crash. He does it inside of his gym. Should these comps go smaller to eventually get bigger?
You're going to keep more money, right? Even in TFX's example, like that's $500 less they have to spend, right?
I mean, that's a steal. I would stay there.
Can potentially, I'm just saying, like potentially, like part of the venue adds to the athlete experience. You can do more logistically. You could do more spectator wise, all those things. So it's a kind of a hard problem to solve. But what do you think, Noah?
Yeah, I think like I've always liked that about Crash being able to actually do that. And I don't know, because you're right with saying the experience, but I think each experience is different. Like with TFX, like being able to go to different arenas and do different events is super cool and super fun and part of the athlete experience. But I also do understand from the perspective of the person who's running the comp having to make that decision and manage money well in order to make the athlete experience as best they can, but also make sure they pay out the people that need to pay out. But also I think, I don't know, it's tough. Just because I've never been in that position to actually make or look at, where money would go or how someone wouldn't be able to pay out who they need to pay out because of mismanaged money.
Yeah. No, it's like I would never do that.
Like, I don't know. Like,
I would make sure I have the money.
Yeah, I don't know what decisions lead to like, oh shoot, we don't have any money. How did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one question though is, did TFX announce that they had the prize money prior to Sunday? Because I feel like they posted it Sunday.
I think they posted. I think they waited.
Yeah. So that's also smart management too. It's like, okay, well, how much money do we have? And then we'll go ahead and go from there.
And I mean, TFX has been around so long, and
long time,
and they've done like, so 2019 when I did it, I did RX men, and it was at a different venue.
It was,
but I think in RX men there was like 160 dudes who competed, and
a lot.
I think that year Chandler won the elite men, and I think he got like 8 or 9K. Like they've been even bigger than they are.
Got it.
And I think it was a conscious decision to come down a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in their in-person, like how many athletes they have, how much money are they trying to take in, dish out, all of these different things. If I had to guess, I bet it was a conscious business decision for some reason.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe I'll reach out, see if I can get them on and talk to them, because that's, I think, the biggest thing right now for like coach, athlete, whoever you are. I know a lot of people's concerns are like, oh, the uncertainty and CrossFit not telling you what they're going to do, and WFP, even though they're out there, I don't think they've told anybody realistically what they're doing other than the top end athletes so far. And going from there, it's like, okay, how do we make this thing? And I only use HYROX as the counter because it's getting so big, and they have a good business acumen based on some of the money and business podcasts I've listened to with them on it, that they're trying to grow it correctly and make and draw people in that way. So like, what happens when these, like TFX or Wadapalooza don't do that or bring somebody in to build up their business correctly, quote unquote, to be successful, to give experience to the athletes, to give good competitions, to maybe even condense the competitions. Like, another question I have is, should the competitions be 3 days, or could you do it in a day and a half or 2 days?
I mean, you could, but then from a programming and coaching perspective, that just bleeds into like, is this a qualifying event to get people?
Yeah, but who cares? Who cares?
I do.
Well, yeah. So like the regular person though, do they really care?
No.
No. I do think you could make a strong argument if there was some parameters for programming. Like, you got to have, let's just say, for lack of, even though I don't like these terms, weightlifting under fatigue, you got to have an endurance event, and then you got to have 3 mixed modal events. So 5 events. Is that balanced enough
to get somebody to an in-person qualifier? Probably. Yeah. I think, I mean, it is.
And that would linearize all the systems.
It is a lot. Like 3 days is a long time. And TFX is really like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
Technically. Because they do the half day on Friday, and then if you don't make the final, you're done decently early on.
In the morning.
I'm just saying, like, known you will compete for 2 days.
I think you can do it. I don't know how much that de-incentivizes people to travel, right?
I think it would incentivize them more.
It's quick trip, but cheaper, right? So it's not a bad idea. I don't know if there's any relatively large comps that are only 2 days, though.
Yeah. No.
I think
that's
all
why I asked.
Days. Yeah.
Just pulling it to the HYROX idea where you get out there, go for 90 minutes. It's a single day.
Yeah, and then you're done.
But people still, even if you're going out for the single day, it's the same thing like with you run a marathon or an Ironman, you still got to go out a day early. You might leave a day later. So you're still there for that time. What's the difference with adding another day? You compete twice. I do know there are people who run the half marathon the first day when they do half and full, and then they run the full the next day. I know there are people who do that.
Psychos.
That's crazy.
There's like running, man. Like,
that's crazy.
But you think about like an ultra marathon, it's like a whole 24-hour event, right?
Right.
Or longer, depending on the course and where they're at. But like, you still got to get out there a day or 2 days ahead. You're definitely staying a day after to recover.
I've been thinking about the WFP too, and I'm not meaning to be critical in the sense, like, I
don't know how they're going to make any money.
Well, it's like, I know their qualifier is open for registration right now.
There's 71 people signed up.
Well, but like, so none of the really high level people I coach got signed, right?
They're not beating those 20.
They're not really interested in doing another qualifier in the sense of they're going to do the CrossFit season, and that's just
they want to get Noah's feeling. They want to be out there on the floor,
but
step out onto the court.
Even for, because they say they have these other, it's like challenger, competitor, but they haven't put any information out about what that means.
Well, yeah, because the online qualifier right now looks like it's just the challengers.
Right. So it's like even if I had
but I'm not going to sign up for that because the challenger is supposedly, my understanding is you're trying to challenge for one of those top 20 spots.
Right.
Well, unless you've been to the games, you're not taking one of those spots.
Right. So it's like if I even have, quarterfinal bubble athletes or high level quarterfinal athletes, bubble semifinal athletes who maybe the opportunity to do the competitor division would make sense. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Like there's no information out there. So it's like, yep, this thing's happening with these 20 people and whoever decides to go challenge them, cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think you get to challenge them. Like, I think you do. You get points, right?
If you make it, to my understanding, they're going to have 30 in the pro division at every in-person.
Right.
So the top 10 from the challenger qualifier will
get to go. Got it.
And then you compete for points.
Okay.
But again, it's like, so
that's cool. But I think on a small, like they've already paid out. Let's just say on average, if somebody's getting 30K for their contract times the 40 people, like that's a lot of money they've already paid out. How are they going to recoup that money?
I have no idea.
What is that? 40 people.
A lot.
A lot.
So 100.
That's $1 million. It's $1,200,000.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that's a lot of money to recoup. And if you only got 71 people sign up for your qualifier, I don't know, for what, $20 or whatever it is. I don't know how you're going to make that money back.
Yeah. And like, I'm not, as a coach, I'm not even opposed. Like, if one of my athletes is interested, let's rock and roll. But I don't think any of them are even interested to it because not enough of them know what it is. And the ones who, what we do know about it, it just doesn't make sense for them. It's like, why would I go do that? I'm just going to go do TFX or Syndicate or Metcon Rush or whatever.
So would you do I mean, I already know this answer. Would you do TFX again?
Me?
Just as like, or athletes, like as coaches or athletes, like, do you see the draw there?
Oh, I mean, as a coach, I am handcuffed to go to TFX as long as I live. Because
I think TFX is great. I honestly
live
wish
in Houston.
No, I don't know. I think their qualifiers at a weird time for me, from a lot of my athletes, typically. But I like it as an event. I wish it wasn't right before the Open. Yeah, because I don't like events like that. I think it's dangerous for a lot of people who, unless you're just like, hey, I'm not going to do the Open or I'm not going to do whatever. This is, like you said earlier, you circle it on the calendar and you're doing TFX and let's say Crash, or you're doing TFX and SoCal Wadapalooza and you're not even doing the Open. I think that's good. I think all these events should in some way force people to do the Open. Because like I said before, drawing everything in and giving CrossFit money and then getting partnered with CrossFit some way. And yeah, they got to grow the pie somehow. Like everyone, I feel like everyone needs to work together to make this better, to grow the pie. So there is actually more opportunity. Because you hear all these people talking about, oh, there's more opportunity, there's more opportunity. I don't think there is. I actually think, like you said, Tristan, things are getting pulled in too many directions and there's actually less opportunity. There's more opportunity right now, but there's going to be less opportunity in the future, I believe.
Yeah, if they start to fall off the map, right? It's like, there's opportunity, especially for athletes right now, because the leader, like to qualify for events, because things might not be as dense.
Yeah.
Competitor wise, but then do we pick our head up in 2 years, 3 years, assuming nothing changes, which it certainly will. And there's 30% less events.
Right.
They've all just closed shop, can't pay the bills, whatever.
Yeah. Cause like Turkey Challenge is not opening back up.
I couldn't imagine.
I mean, they could try and say, hey, we're going to try and recoup the money and pay the winners that we didn't pay. And we're not going to pay anyone. And we're going to run super lean, help us out, sign up, compete. I mean, that would be one way to approach it and apologize. I just don't know how many people would be on board with that. They should. If that was the case, I think a lot of people should accept that and like be really forgiving and try to help them to help, pay athletes like Jacob and sign up for the qualifier, whether you're making it or not making it. And then everything else. Would you guys be in favor of, because I already said I'm in favor of these things. Like money makes the world go round. So like if you got to increase it to make it happen, I'm all for it. like paying $70 for a coach's pass. I would like that if you got perks too, like you were saying, like if you're able to get on the floor, because it
100%.
does not professionalize. It creates a barrier from coaches who are not actually coaches, because there are a lot of people who come and get the wristband and they're just a family member and they want the free spectator, whatever, versus paying the $70 and getting some perks as a coach, being treated a little bit better across the board, and then having opportunity to like help your athletes on the floor and everything else.
I mean,
would you guys? Oh, go ahead.
I would say I would pay $150 if you allowed me to sit at the end lane or behind.
I'd pay $150 too.
I'd pay $150 to do that. Am I going to be stoked to pay $150? No, but like I want to help my athletes on the floor. Like I think there's a lot of coaches who don't think they can make a difference on the floor.
No, you absolutely can.
I will,
especially the ones that are like,
hill.
Yeah, I'll be there with you.
I'll die on that hill, even if it's just the smallest things. You calm down.
Especially, fine. Like, even if it's like where you're trying to make moves. If you're fine with your placing on the leaderboard,
right?
But if you're trying to make moves, even if you're trying to jump one spot or you're trying to go from one heat to another, that coach can help that happen.
And you just eliminate it. It allows people to understand the value of a coach more, because the athlete is then going to talk about that difference. Like in the lifting event for Jacob, I was watching, like all he was focused on was
lifting
making
weights.
snatches.
Yeah.
And we had a plan going into the event for his jumps. I was watching what everybody else was doing. I already knew what everybody else hit in the previous heat.
Right.
He wanted to deviate from the plan because he felt good. And I made him stick to the plan because I also knew what other people were.
Yeah.
And I knew what other people were hitting. And I knew we were going to be up 5 pounds if everything went well.
Yeah.
So we didn't need to play any risky, right? And that was in the outdoor event, which was easy for me to like just be right next to his kind of lane.
Yeah.
But that's a coaching thing. Like that helps the athlete. And especially because we all know this, the pro division is not where these events make their money, right? That's where they lose their money, because they got to pay them. They got to pay them more money than everybody else. But think of how impactful that kind of stuff is for RX, intermediate, rookie athletes. Like they have a coach, even if it's just somebody from their affiliate, their affiliate coach who's on the floor trying to help maximize their performance. They're going to tell everybody. They're going to be like, this is the craziest thing ever. Like I had a coach helping me in this whole event. Like, it's awesome. And I think that's a pretty small thing, really. I mean, I understand floor space is limited, judges, I get it. But if there's a way for comps to figure that out, I think that would be super cool.
Yeah, it would change a lot of things. Athlete registration, you guys, I've said this for a while, and I don't know what the threshold is, but I do think for a 2 to 3 day event, it should be in the ballpark of like $500 to compete. What do you guys think?
Got to balance it out with athlete experience.
Yeah. If they did more, for sure. I think just generally the man hours, the setup, most of these venue costs. Like I know I looked up the TFX one, and like that's a choice that these companies are making, and they could, book cheaper venues and still make it really nice. The flooring there was nice, right? Signage was nice at TFX.
Yeah,
Wadapalooza
was good, and
did a good job. So like,
Wadapalooza signage and stuff is always legit.
Yeah, so I feel like generally you could push up on that cost. But yeah, you're right. Like you need to make sure everyone's getting a t-shirt, getting some type of lanyard or signage.
Yeah.
Something commemorative in a way.
Yeah. I think that's the equation for that part is registration cost goes up, athlete experience has to go up.
Yeah.
However you do that or communicate that, because also people value different things. So that gets kind of tough. But I think if you rise those two together, probably going to be okay. Because if you have a huge athlete registration cost and then your athlete experience is a t-shirt and like a little
wristband
swag bag and wristband, like people are going to be like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think athlete experience also is more than just the check-in.
Oh yeah.
What's
That's
the
what I
warm-up,
mentioned. Like
what's the warm-up area like? What's the corrals like? What's the what's the judging like? That is a lot of the athlete experience when
Yeah.
you're on the floor.
Well, yeah.
like,
So that's the other thing too. If they charge more, they could, because now with the AFJ, you could stipend off some money for these judges. Not that every judge would get paid, but you could have like the head judge getting paid. You know, not that getting paid is an incentive all the time to do, you know, virtuosity, but it does certainly help people.
Yes.
And it's the thing where like, or your judge's experience goes up, you know, they get better stopwatches, nicer shirts, like just that kind of stuff. And I think that's where we're at with all of it. Like I joke, it's like most people run the marathon for the medal at the end. Some of these medals, marathon medals, like I know they get them in mass quantities, so the price comes down. But like if you were to buy one of the medals, it costs your registration fee, like just the medal if you bought it yourself. Because I got the one from Philly. It's metal. It's made of metal. It's got a little bell. It's die cast. Like I'm like, if I just bought this one, it'd be $150 like on eBay,
right,
for sure.
Mm.
So like I know they get a ton of them and it drives the price down. But
I think for another thing from a competitor perspective, like the athlete experience, not specific to the check-in process is, I mean, I'm trying to think of things that like my wife would say or Jacob would say or something like that. You know, $500 registration fee, $450 registration fee, but we're chip timing every event. Okay, let's go. No more stopwatch. I like it, right? Like, or stopwatch.
Yeah.
Right. Like, take some more human error out of it. Like, I really like that, right? Like those kind of things. I think athletes might not realize at first, but if the coaches explain it, like, hey, yeah, you're paying $450, but this check-in process was legit. Look at this warm-up area. They're chip timing every event. Like, there's a buzzer for you to, like, all those kind of things. Athletes could kind of realize and learn the economics behind it a little more, and they would appreciate those things. Right.
Yeah.
100%. I agree. Because we did run into my team ran into that issue twice with judge error, human error on timing and stuff. So
I mean, that will happen regardless, even if you have chip timers. I mean, I've had athletes at the games that have crossed the line and we still had to argue the chip timer and go to video, and it's like, oh, there was an error. Like clearly their leg is past the line and this person's leg is not, even though the chip timers say that it was reversed.
Right.
Yes.
It's like, but it's right on video.
It's
so there's still always going to be some type of error, and that's okay. Like that's all sport.
Yeah.
TFX they did have cameras too, which
they did. They said the quality wasn't super great on it. We didn't get to view it because my brother-in-law was on my team and his wife videoed every event just because she wanted to, but it ended up helping us because dispute a couple things. But yes, they did say they had video for every event, but they said the quality may not be so great. But
take what you can get.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, overall good experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, overall good. I mean, little things that are just always part of it, but I had a good time overall. It was stressful. Jacob stresses me out.
Other than having these types of conversations, what do you guys think we could do? Because we obviously want these things to improve, you know, and it's, I didn't realize that, and I don't know if you applied or not for the CrossFit Athlete Council, the CAC.
I didn't.
I didn't realize there was a space for age group games athlete or games coaches. Also, like I've coached at the games in 2019 as an individual coach. So like, I didn't even apply because I thought it was for athletes.
Yeah.
Again, another and it might be my fault. I didn't read into it enough or take the time because my understanding was CrossFit Athletes Council. I figured it's for athletes, but I probably should look at it. But I do think if they come around again where you could apply, I'm definitely going to apply. And I was going to say, Tristan, you might want to just look in that and apply too. Because I think we have good things to say and we want things to grow. And our vantage point of looking at different things, like looking at HYROX, looking at different comps, being at the multiple comps. Because I know CrossFit as an organization or these other, like the TFX people aren't going to Wadapalooza the weekend before and standing around going, how could they make this better?
Right.
Like I would argue the coaches who coach at multiple comps have a better understanding than anybody out there, honestly. Because you Wadapalooza, then you went to TFX. Now you're going over to Fittest.
Yes, sir.
Then what's the next one?
Hopefully sleep. No, I don't think I'll travel again until
Syndicate, maybe.
Well, TFX.
Oh yeah, TFX and then Syndicate potentially.
Yeah, probably Syndicate.
But so you're gonna over this year,
maybe Monster Games, then NCC, then hopefully games of some sort.
All right, so this year 7 events,
probably 7 to 10 times.
Yeah, off the top of your head, 7 events that you're gonna get to see, and some of the largest. I mean, almost the largest events, not some of the largest events. In a firsthand perspective. So like the information you're accumulating relative to, let's say, Adrian Bosman goes to 2,
right?
Who's got more experience and time under attention. And he's just standing around talking and looking and he does talk to people. You see him at events, but he's pretty protected by the crew. And like, you're not getting to him.
Yeah. Coaches are in it. Like we're talking to athlete control. We're talking to judges. We're talking to head judges. We're talking to other athletes. We're talking to other coaches. We're talking to all the different kinds of people, right? Like all that.
Yeah. And I just don't think they're asking, and not like just us, but like training think tanks coaches, the HWPO coaches, and like we get on these types of things here on YouTube that are live, and Coffee Pods and Wads and Barbell Spin, they all do a good job, but who's like really seeking us out for that type of experience? Because that's the thing, is we have a greater experience. And I know, slight to the athletes, I know they compete, but like their job is to go compete. Their job is to be focused on the thing. Like, no, as an athlete, how much of the stuff are you picking up in that event versus like if you were a coach looking around?
Oh, no. Like, yeah, I'm very, you're like a racehorse, you're very like
blinders.
Like your blinders are on. You are focused on the event and making sure you're executing well. Whereas if I were a coach out there, I can have a better vantage point, see what's going on, see what's going well, see what's not. Maybe some issues are going on in the back or whatever. I think as an athlete, there's a lot of things that we miss compared to the coach that catches those things.
I will say one funny thing and then one really good thing about TFX. You talking about seeing things, Todd. Mahmoud has a video of me he took from across. He was on one side of the arena. I was on the other side. And it's during one of Jacob's events. It was during the squat clean, ring muscle up, or the sandbag squat, ring muscle up, sandbag clean event.
The photo. I saw that photo.
And all you see is so he took a video of it, and all you see is my eyes. And my eyes are just like.
Just looking everywhere.
Just everywhere. Because I'm just trying to take in data, right? It was a funny video. I might post it at some point. But something that TFX did that I loved was the lady that you filed appeals with. She had a binder.
Yes.
For every workout, for every division, for every change. And at any point I needed to, or if I needed to send somebody over there, like there was a couple times I went over there and I said, hey, can I get the movement standards for this whole workout? And she just opened her binder and told me exactly what the movement standards were. It was great. It was so nice. Like, what's the standards for this? Like, that was a very small thing. And she also had a different role, being the first layer of the appeals process to take appeals and guide people on submitting it through Competition Corner and all that. But that was awesome, because then I could just go to her and get that information and then go talk to my athletes. Like, hey, everything's normal. These standard, this standard. Hey, one little small thing, this, right? That thing. So
very smooth.
It was great.
Smooth. Yeah.
Yeah. And some people, if you don't dispute anything, or you're an intermediate athlete or you're an RX athlete, typically you're not dealing with that stuff at all. Because you're just going out there, I got a no rep. Maybe I'll submit an appeal. And they're just on Competition Corner submitting an appeal. But that experience that you had as a coach, like, also shines light on things that they're doing that people don't realize that have been done. Like, someone had to build that binder. Someone had to empower her. Maybe it was her who built the binder.
Yeah.
But someone had to empower her with like, hey, here's your job. Here's your role, responsibility. Here's how you're going to execute. Those man hours, manpower, like that's a lot. That's cool. So shout out to that, doing a good job.
Yeah, it was good. I think they did a good job.
Nice.
Good dry run for them, probably, because I think this will be their first time they take it to somewhere like OKC, something so far away. Because they're super familiar and intimate with that venue at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
All right. You guys like this format?
Yeah, it was fun.
Could we do more investigation on how we think or see or look at the the business or the development of the space, because our livelihoods do depend on this.
Correct.
Literally how I pay
Yes.
my bills, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fun to talk about, and I mean, I think we did a relatively good job. Like, we're not trying to be critical. We're not like,
Well, in
man,
a negative
TFX,
sense.
TFX sucks. Like,
No. We're trying to be critical,
like,
but not in a negative sense.
No.
Hey, look,
We want
here's what we
things to be
see.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
the better each part of this does,
Mhm.
it's like in CrossFit, everybody talks so long about improving the coaching.
Mhm.
When the coaching got better, the athletes got better. When the athletes got better, it got more watchable. It's the same thing for venues and season logistics and money, and we all benefit. Like, if the athletes make more money, the coaches make more money. More athletes will want a big coach. Like, all these things.
Right.
So if everything continues to get better together, it's better for everybody.
Yeah. Tristan, you want to do this after Fittest of the Coast? We'll have our other coaches on or coaching.
Yeah, I'd be down. I'm
Just
excited to go back to Fittest. It's only my second time there.
I hear it's good. I mean, we've had the last 2 years people compete. This will be the first year going out to coach people.
Oh, sick.
And every time the first year I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it sounds good. The second year they were raving reviews. So I was like, okay, we got to do it. So we have 15 people competing.
Godspeed.
So it'd be fun. Well, they're not all mine. So I got the hook a little bit.
Yeah. I have just my wife, Justin, Melissa, Cece, Angelina, Dan. I have like 6 people there, but
that's still a lot.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it last year. I'm looking forward to going back. So,
all right, cool. I'll see you in a couple of days then.
Yes, sir. Thursday when you get in?
Yeah.
Same.
Got 4 individuals, and then in different all age groups and RX.
Okay.
But, cool.
Yeah, this is fun to chat about. It's a different perspective too than just sitting around talking about
workouts and stuff. Yeah.
Rep schemes all the time. Yeah.
And HYROX is cool. The Vegas one was cool. I don't want to hate on it. I think people should do it. They should add it to their training.
Straight up, I was thinking about HYROX because I knew the Vegas one came about. I'm going to talk to Jacob. He doesn't even know this yet, but he won't watch this, so he won't find out. So it's fine. I am going to talk to him about. I'm going to talk to him about making him. I'm going to talk to him about making him do a HYROX, and then redo a HYROX every 6 months as a marker for endurance.
Aerobic endurance. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple athletes where I'm like, you should run a half marathon. And they're like, no. So the HYROX might be a good way to induce the similar thing.
Well, and it would be pretty good for him to do. Like even having him do
he'll get better.
Sled station.
Just knowing his athlete profile and watching him at comps and stuff, and he's phenomenal. But I think that'll put him over the top for sure. Like just that base and training and cyclical volume and those contractions, like it would change him a lot.
Noah, what did you guys run on your mile? Your like
the 2 mile?
Yeah. What was your
pace? So I looked at my Garmin. I think our average pace was between 740 and 750. Okay. I think that was our average pace.
It
was over 2 miles.
It was over 2 miles. Yeah.
The one guy isn't the one guy on your team kind of slow though.
Yeah.
And you guys had to read.
Yeah, his name.
I'm not trying to hate. He's just
he's not a great runner.
We were three quarters in on the first mile, and he was already like huffing and puffing. And I was like, "Hey, you're okay."
If you had to run that by yourself, no, what do you think you would have did?
Yeah, I would have been able. Yeah, I would have been able to go faster because I think once we reached probably like a mile to mile and a quarter, we were settling in. I think a little bit to where I felt fine. Like if I needed to push more, I could have. But I think we were kind of trying to make sure he didn't feel like he was blowing up too soon. Because because I watched my father-in-law, he did it before. And so I kind of knew the route and I was like, I think that's over 2 miles. And so, but yeah, I think I could have ran it faster for sure. Probably around maybe 7.5, 7:20 mile pace.
Them boys in the pro division who won, they were
hauling.
So Casey got 6th, Casey Strong, guy who ended up winning. And I was talking to him after. He goes, I looked at my watch and it said 6-minute mile pace. Dude, and I was like, why am I in 6th? Fast. Jacob was running like 7 to 7:30 and he got 11th.
Yeah.
They were running
Yeah.
that mile or that 2 miles basically, because they ran like 3/4, did the lunge, and then they had about, I think all of their watches were 2.7 to 2.3 in total distance. So
Yeah, mine was 2.35, something like
Yeah.
that. Same thing in our division too. Like there were guys that just hauled before our heat. I think they finished like 16 something when we finished 18 something. We got 6, I think, on that.
people be
Yeah, that's
fast.
I could see.
They were
Yeah, but I could
fast.
see why you want the HYROX for Jacob though too, because like what it'll do is over time is that same running effort will feel more effortless,
Mhm.
and he'll have a little bit higher gear. And if like even going back to the snatch conversation, if you know like you're watching, you're like, hey dude, just 610 is the pace, and like he's holding it, and he could run like a 550.
He's cruising.
It's like, well, now I'm chill,
Yeah.
and like people like James Sprague do that. Like all of the endurance people do that. They're like, oh, I don't need to run that much faster. I just need to run fast enough to be ahead.
It was actually a pretty funny. So we looked back at the leaderboard from 2023 when he won.
Mhm.
They had the vested 5K.
Oh yeah.
He got 11th in that event that year, and he got 11th in the run this year, and he probably ran over a minute faster. Like he's an exponentially better runner now, but the field was just way better runners than that field that year. So there was no reflection of it on the leaderboard, but he knows he's a better runner. So yeah, I think it'd be
And the
good to do
vest too,
HYROX.
everything else.
Yeah, for sure. It was also super muddy that year. I don't know if you remember. But good stuff.
All right, cool. Well, you guys made it this far, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. Just like Tristan in the beginning got his notification on his watch. I'm going to go this way. Oh, I can't even see it on your watch. There you go. You got it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope that was insightful and different than some of the episodes we've done.